Hello and welcome to Crime Watch Daily Updates. I'm your host, Anna Garcia. Lots of people find true love through dating apps and websites, but occasionally a match can prove to be deadly. Nancy Hartz was a 71-year-old widow living in Arizona. She turned to a dating website in hopes of meeting someone special, and she started chatting with a man named Ray Carnegan. Nancy and Ray messaged several times per day, and then they really formed a connection. But location always seemed to be an issue, with her living in Arizona and Ray in Utah. One day she emailed Ray and said, "I'd really like to meet you in person." So Ray went to Arizona to visit her, and within a few months, he convinced her to sell her home and car and to leave with him. The two drove off into the sunset together, but Nancy and Ray would hardly live happily ever after. Nancy's kids became concerned after they received some emails, apparently from Nancy, but the wording and the tone just didn't feel like their mom. They hired a private investigator who then took his findings to the local sheriff's department in Arizona. Then detectives learned that Ray stole someone else's identity, and that was enough to book him. Ray was arrested April 13th of 2016 in Yucca, Arizona on fraud-related charges, but Nancy was nowhere to be seen. It turns out that Ray was actually a man named Robert Carnochan who went by 18 different aliases. He might have a pattern as well. Two other elderly women were reported missing out of Las Vegas and Arizona, and they hadn't been seen since 2011 and 2008, and he later became the main suspect in their disappearances. Carnegan was found guilty of forgery, identity theft, and misconduct involving weapons in 2017 and then sentenced to 16 years in prison. But what about Nancy? Well, on May 1st of 2019, Mojave County Sheriff's detectives received a call about the discovery of skeletal remains in a remote area of the desert near Top Rock, Arizona. Investigators collected the remains and sent them to a lab for testing. On December 1st of 2020, the remains were positively identified as Nancy Hartz. The autopsy conducted in February of 2021 determined that she died of gunshot wounds and that her manner of death was clearly a homicide. The sheriff's office had said that while Robert Carnochan was the main suspect in Nancy's disappearance, there wasn't enough evidence to charge him without finding her body. Unfortunately, Robert would never be indicted on charges relating to her murder because he died in prison on September 17th of 2020. Let's look back at the case of a woman who only wanted to find love, but who ended up with a con man who likely cheated her out of her last days.
Almost 20 different names.
Ray was an alias, James Wythe was an alias.
Attached to just one man?
And that's not even including the stolen identity.
Correct.
Authorities and associates believe he's a con artist, but take a closer look.
She was convinced that this was going to be her happy ending.
Is Robert Carnochan, aka Take Your Pick, just a common swindler? Or
we do believe there is something more sinister at play.
could this many-faced man be hiding something much more evil?
He took so much from all of us. I just miss my mama.
At 71 years old and with 2 marriages behind her, Kingman, Arizona local Nancy Ray Hartz had just about given up on romance. But all things being modern, the promise of love is always just a few clicks away, no matter your vintage. An alluring promise boasted by real users of an online dating site catering to the older set, people like Nancy Hartz.
Her husband of, I don't remember how many years, had passed away over 10 years ago. And she didn't have a whole lot of friends outside of home or in the family. And I think she was just looking for someone in her life to spend some time with.
Then along came a man who called himself Ray, same as Nancy's middle name. An instant connection.
I guess they pretty much corresponded several times every day, so it was pretty much just an online relationship. and then he would come and visit with her for 4 days and then would leave again and be gone for 3 or 4 months.
But at her age, Nancy wasn't looking for a part-time lover, and after a year or so of longing and distance, her patience was wearing thin.
She was getting kind of tired of waiting around because of his promises of he would come and see her, and then so she finally wrote an email that she was just about through with the situation, and he was there the next day.
Ray claimed he'd flown down from his ranch in Utah as soon as he thought he might lose her. After that, Sherry says Ray was a constant fixture in Nancy's life. A life that was about to go through a series of sudden, some might even say apocalyptic changes.
He had her convinced that they had to get out of Arizona, had to get out of Kingman because there was lava pits up under the state and that the financial institutions were no longer stable. But he got her throughout these several months convinced that the world was coming to an end.
And whether it was at Ray's insistence or not, Nancy took action. Out of the blue, she traded in her Cadillac, had her Social Security payments transferred to a debit card, and sold the home she lived in most of her life for $50,000 in cash.
They were going to leave together and start this new life and go find property somewhere else.
Where?
She didn't know. Just wherever the wind took them.
Nancy's kids tried to convince her to at least keep the house in case anything went wrong, but Nancy was set on running off with a man Sherry hadn't even met yet.
I didn't meet Ray until right before they left. That's the only time I ever met Ray. He was in the house for a few minutes, and then he was outside unpacking the truck as fast as he could, and it was a very quick in and out. When she left my house that day, I kind of had a feeling in the pit of my stomach that I might never see her again. But there was no stopping her. We tried.
Still, before Ray drove their mom off into the sunset, Nancy's son wrote down the license plate number on his RV and filed it away just in case. In the first few days after Nancy left, Sherry got sick, and like most kids, regardless of age, she wanted her mom.
They left June 2nd. The last time we spoke with her was June 5th. And her last words to me that day were, well, let God's will be done. I said, okay, Mama, I love you, and that was the last time I talked with her.
But then finally, 2 months after she seemed to drop off the face of the earth, Nancy's loved ones started getting emails. She claimed to be happier than ever, living off the grid somewhere in the mountains of New Mexico. But Nancy's kids weren't so sure.
Just from the tone and everything of those emails, we knew that it wasn't her writing.
And when Sherry looked closer, she realized it wasn't even her mom's email.
He changed around 2 of the letters in her email address, because her email address was Arizona Cactus Wren. Well, he had changed it to where it was Arizona Catcus Wren. So the C and the T had been flipped around.
Unless you were paying attention and
Unless
had
you
a
were
careful eye,
paying attention,
you wouldn't have noticed.
Wouldn't have noticed.
It was enough for Sherry's sister Denise to go to authorities. But when police start digging, they get a very different story from none other than Nancy herself. Or so it seemed.
The deputy who took the initial report was able to talk to someone who indicated that they were Nancy and that they wanted to start a new life elsewhere and were not interested in having any further contact with their family. So the case really wasn't going anywhere.
It was devastating news no matter how Nancy's kids looked at it. Either someone was pretending to be their mom for who knows why, or their mom was alive and well and suddenly wanted nothing to do with them.
The Mojave County Sheriff's deputy pretty much dropped it as a case after that, but Denise wasn't about to give up, and neither was her sister.
Even though they had no hard evidence, what Nancy's family did have was a story. And Nancy's younger daughter, Denise, took it straight to the Daily Miner reporter, Doug McMurdo.
I went from, I've seen this movie before, to, wait a minute, I haven't seen this movie before.
After hearing all the strange details, Doug started typing, and soon, the story of Nancy Hartz was front-page news. But even Doug had no way of knowing what an impact his article would have.
After it was published, there was an outpouring of concern from the community. And I know that people made Denise aware of, I think, a couple of private eyes. And one of them, Lyle Sharman, actually started working for her, and he was able to, as they say, break the case open.
At 71 years old, Nancy Ray Hartz dove headlong into the online dating pool and never resurfaced.
All she was looking for was just someone to love and someone to love her.
The person she ran off with was this man, someone who called himself Ray.
Why was it so significant that the Daily Miner broke the story?
The community read it, people outside of the community read it, and Lyle Sharman was introduced to Denise and Sherry.
Lyle Sharman, a private investigator who at the time had 34 missing persons cases under his belt. After meeting with Nancy's kids, he made it 35.
In this case, my action plan was simple. It was try to make contact with Nancy Hartz. One of the first things that I did was took a look at the emails that the family gave me. One email was from Nancy Hartz. The second email was from the guy that she disappeared with who went by Ray.
Surprisingly, Lyle gets a reply almost immediately from Ray.
He went on to say that Nancy was fine, that she no longer wanted anything to do with her family. I responded back to him and said, in either event, I need to speak to Nancy Hartz, so just have her call me.
The ultimatum paid off.
I was driving down the road, it was like 3 days later, and my phone rang, and she claimed that it was Nancy Hartz.
But the PI wasn't satisfied, and since he'd never heard the real Nancy's voice, he asked if they could schedule another call, one he could record on the sly. In the meantime, Lyle had the number traced.
So the phone number came back to an apartment complex in Las Vegas. We kind of surveyed for a while, and then we eventually just went to the apartment, knocked on the door. It was obvious within a couple of minutes that Nancy Hartz was not going to be at that location.
A false lead.
What we learned about that phone number was when the account was created, Ray had obviously used someone else's address with someone else's name.
While he waited for that next call, Lyle got with Denise and Sherry to devise a plan.
I said, I want you to give me 3 questions that only your mother would know.
And as a wild card, Lyle decided to throw in a 4th question not even the real Nancy would know. Then, after several days of anxious waiting, the call came in.
Hey, I hate to bother you again. I know you're kind of tired of all this and stuff, but I'm trying to do everything I can to just prove to your daughter that you're okay, so that I can just end this case.
Okay, I have talked to Denise on the phone twice in the past month.
That was news to Denise, but Lyle played along, and once he established a rapport, it was time to start getting more personal. Question 1.
What was the name of the old man that lived across the street when we were kids?
The person talking to Lyle didn't have an answer, but they did have an excuse.
Maybe I need to explain. For instance, the old guy that babysat them, that surprised me because he molested both my girls.
In response to that claim,
We used to make fun of him and call him Birdwatcher.
question 2.
What did my papa call me?
Surely Denise's mother would remember something like that. Instead,
He couldn't stand her because she was the result of an affair that I had.
Denise, what do you make of that?
My papa was my grandfather, and he used to call me his Durango doll. So that's mind-blowing to me.
questions 3 and 4 produced even more suspicious answers, but it was this one that really got Lyle's attention.
The color of the Dodge Charger that you drove when they were little, was that a legitimate question, or?
I did have a Charger, and it was that bluish green color.
Not only was the real car a completely different color,
She never owned a Dodge Charger. My mother owned a Dodge Charger. I made the question up for my own family.
but then it didn't really matter what the person was saying.
The first 2 words out of her mouth, my sister and I looked at each other, and the tears just rolled down our faces. We knew that was not our mother on that recording.
At Lyle's insistence, Denise sets up another meeting with the sheriff's office, and after listening to the new evidence, they agreed to reopen the investigation. One of the first things Nancy's family gives them is that license plate number her son wrote down just seconds before Ray drove her off to destination unknown.
When we started looking into Ray, we found that the name he was using was actually a stolen identity from an individual in the eastern part of the United States.
That name was James Browning Wythe, and the individual it belongs to is actually a famous painter in the art world.
Even using his real social security number and his date of birth. So we reached out to the real James Wythe, and he ended up filing, some reports.
Authorities begin searching for the man of many aliases, knowing he could be anywhere from Mexico to Montana, or he could be right next door.
He was arrested on the 13th of April in Yucca, Arizona.
Just 22 miles from where Nancy disappeared.
We were able to arrest him on the stolen identity and false information charges.
Even more outrageous, he was found living with a woman who, like Nancy, had just sold all of her belongings to start a new life with this mystery man.
We don't believe she's an accomplice at all. She's been very cooperative, and we certainly believe that she could have been the next victim.
We tried to track down the woman for comment, only to find she's gone back to her family in California. As for the man she may have just narrowly escaped, his real name is Robert Carnochan, a Canadian citizen who has somehow been living illegally in the US since 1993.
How many aliases did he go by?
As 16 or 17.
And that's not even including the stolen identity.
Correct.
So this guy really is an elaborate con man.
Oh, he's very good at playing someone else, yes.
But is he just a con man or something much worse?
He has admitted that he knows Nancy. He claims that the last time he saw her was about a month before he was arrested.
He dropped her off at a local business and never saw her again, according to him.
So then, where is she? When police searched Robert's home in Yucca, they found several guns, one with the serial number filed off. And that's not all.
Were you able to find any of Nancy's belongings, personal possessions with him?
We did find some things that belonged to Nancy, yes.
You able to share what that is?
No, we're not at this time.
The fake calls, the new woman. For Sherry, it all adds up to one very tragic conclusion.
I know what he did to her. There isn't a body yet. And I don't understand why he had to do that. Why couldn't you have just taken all of her money if that's what you wanted? Take it, it's just flipping money.
For now, that's only speculation. But just weeks ago, police also found a few very big new clues. Clues that could change the entire course of the investigation. On a computer in the Yucca home, deputies discovered the names and numbers of at least 2 different women.
We began trying to find these women, whether there was anything about this gentleman that they could help us with so that maybe we could find Nancy. And what we found was that these ladies are also missing.
Meeting up with a man she knew as Ray, 71-year-old Nancy Hartz vanished. And after arresting him for forgery, identity theft, and weapons charges, police were about to learn she wasn't the man's only missing mate.
As far as we can tell, he would find his way into the lives of older women, and that he wanted to have a life with them.
While searching for clues to Nancy's disappearance, deputies came across the names of at least 2 different missing women. Las Vegas local Neva Lindley, who was last seen in 2011, and Dolan Springs, Arizona resident Verna Clayton, last seen in 2008.
3 women are missing, and the only thing they have in common is this guy.
Though the women knew him by other names, authorities learned he is really 69-year-old Robert Carnochan, a Canadian citizen living here illegally for nearly 30 years.
Would you say Carnegan is just really good con man, or is there something more sinister at play?
Well, first, he is a really good con man, and we do believe there is something more sinister at play.
According to the suspected scam artist himself, the last time he saw any of the women, they were alive and well. So then, why has no one heard from them since?
What did you stumble upon here?
Well, I believe it's much bigger than someone just left home because they wanted to start a new life.
Mojave County sheriffs are currently working with several agencies, including the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, to unravel the mystery of Robert Carnochan and to help fill in certain blanks. Like, if it wasn't Nancy Hartz making those phone calls, who was it?
If a voice imprint can be done on not just that recording, but recordings of his actual voice, we are having that done as we speak.
In addition, private investigator Lyle Sharman continues to work the case and began searching the northern Arizona desert with cadaver dogs just yesterday.
Do you think there are other victims out there besides Nancy?
I'm confident that there's other victims out there.
To date, police will only say that Robert Carnochan is an official person of interest in the women's disappearances. But investigators are building their case and asking for help from anyone who may recognize this face.
Do you believe there are even more victims than the 2 additional ones?
There certainly could be, and that's one of the reasons that we hope that anyone who sees the suspect's photographs and has had dealings with him will contact us.
For now, Robert Carnochan is in jail on a $32,000 bond after pleading not guilty to all charges.
I think that Denise and Sherry would be wise to prepare themselves for the worst.
I know what's happened to her. There's not a doubt in my mind what's happened to her. But why did you have to do that? Why? You didn't have to do that. And the sad thing is, she was just looking for someone to love her.